Ambassador Kreltak of the Valorian Empire stood 7 feet tall, had skin like tungsten plating, and took his honor more seriously than a tax auditor takes deductions. Which is to say, extremely seriously. He was also, at this particular moment, absolutely furious about coffee. "This beverage is an insult," Kreltak announced, his voice resonating through the Galactic Council's negotiation chamber like a bass drum in a library. "It tastes of burnt dirt and regret." Jake Morrison, human diplomatic attaché and owner of exactly one wrinkled suit, looked up from his datapad with the expression of a man who'd been awake for 30 hours straight. Which he had been, because apparently interstellar trade negotiations didn't believe in time zones. "Yeah, well, that's what coffee tastes like," Jake said, taking another sip of his own cup. "You get used to it. Eventually you even convince yourself it's good." The other delegates around the table, a colorful assortment of tentacles, antennae, and existential confusion, went very quiet. You could have heard a pin drop, assuming pins made noise in the vacuum of space, which they didn't, but you get the idea. Kreltak's faceplates shifted color from diplomatic blue to angry purple. "You mock me. You mock the sacred bean ceremony of my people with your flippant Earth sarcasm." Jake blinked. "Sacred bean ceremony? Buddy, it's just coffee. I didn't even make it. The machine made it. Take it up with the Keurig." "I challenge you to honorable combat," Kreltak declared, slamming one massive fist on the table hard enough to make everyone's coffee cups jump. A small alien in the corner actually fell off their chair. "You what now?" Jake asked, suddenly much more awake. "A duel. At dawn. Or whatever passes for dawn in this space station's rotational cycle." Kreltak produced a formal challenge datapad from seemingly nowhere and thrust it at Jake. "Sign here, here, and initial here." Jake stared at the glowing document. His brain, running on fumes and caffeine, made several critical errors in rapid succession. First, it noted that Kreltak seemed really serious. Second, it remembered that humans were supposed to be brave and tough in front of aliens. Third, and most critically, it completely failed to engage the part responsible for reading terms and conditions. "Sure, fine. Whatever gets us back to the trade agreements," Jake said, scribbling his signature with a light pen. "Can we talk about the tariff schedules now?" The room erupted in shocked chittering, beeping, and one species equivalent of a gasp, which sounded like a deflating balloon. Barry, Jake's personal AI assistant, materialized as a small hologram above Jake's datapad. Barry stood for basic administrative recording and retrieval yada yada, because the person who'd named him had apparently given up halfway through. He looked like a tiny floating businessman with a permanent expression of concern. "Sir," Barry said, his voice tight with panic, "do you have any idea what you just agreed to? A fight? I took karate when I was 9. I got a yellow belt." Jake drained his coffee. How bad could it be? Barry's holographic face cycled through several expressions, landing on something between horror and resignation. "Sir, if you lose this duel, the terms state that humanity will be banned from trading in 12 star systems. Our embassy status will be revoked in 47 systems, and you will personally be exiled to a penal colony on Frost Moon 7, where the average temperature is -200 degrees and the only entertainment is ice." Jake set down his coffee cup very carefully. "Come again?" "Also," Barry continued, his voice climbing an octave, "Ambassador Kreltak's species has regenerative skin plating, redundant organ systems, and bones made of a titanium-calcium composite. They're literally bred for combat. You're a human who once sprained his ankle stepping off a curb." "That curb was surprisingly high," Jake muttered, his face going pale. He looked at Kreltak, who was now smiling with way too many teeth. "Can I unchallenged myself? Is that a thing?" "Cowardice is not permitted," Kreltak rumbled. "We duel in 48 Earth hours. Prepare yourself. Small soft human. I will enjoy this." As the Valorian ambassador strode out of the chamber, his armor plating gleaming under the station lights, Jake sat very still. "Barry," he said quietly, "get me the complete rulebook for Galactic Council duels, and maybe some antacids, and possibly a lawyer. Actually, definitely a lawyer." "Right away, sir," Barry said. Then more softly, "Sir, for what it's worth, yellow belt is very respectable. Barry, I was 9. I mostly just learned how to tie the belt." "Ah, then we're doomed." Jake spent the next 6 hours in his quarters, surrounded by holographic legal documents that made his eyes hurt and his soul question every life choice that had led him to diplomatic service. Barry floated nearby, helpfully highlighting the parts that meant, "You're probably going to die." "Okay, Let me get this straight, Jake said, rubbing his temples. No firearms of any kind. No energy weapons. No explosives. No chemical weapons. No biological weapons. No nuclear, thermonuclear, or antimatter weapons. Correct, sir. No weapons of mass destruction. Weapons of minor destruction. Or weapons of moderate inconvenience. Also correct. No orbital strikes. No calling in favors from mercenaries. And no poisoning his food beforehand. That last one is just general diplomatic protocol, sir, but yes. Jake leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. They've basically banned everything humans are good at. We spent 10,000 years figuring out how to kill each other from progressively longer distances. And now I have to fight RoboCop's bigger brother in hand-to-hand combat. The door chimed. Jake's fellow human delegates piled in, led by Ambassador Patricia Hayes, who had the look of a woman ready to strangle someone with paperwork. Morrison, she said, her voice carrying the warmth of a Siberian winter. What part of "don't start an interstellar incident" was unclear. In my defense, I thought he was being metaphorical about the duel thing. He's Valorian. They're never metaphorical. They're the only species that made their dictionary legally binding. Patricia pulled up a chair. We've been on the phone with Earth for 3 hours. The President is concerned. The Secretary of State is concerned. The Joint Chiefs are very concerned and also asked if we could film it. That's not helping. I'm not here to help. I'm here to witness whatever terrible decision you make next. She paused. That said, we did pull every file we have on Valorian combat tactics. Do you want the bad news or the worse news? Hit me with the bad news. Kreltak has fought in 47 honor duels. He's won 47 honor duels. His species has a healing factor that would make a salamander jealous, and his bone density is roughly equivalent to tank armor. Jake closed his eyes. And the worst news? He's trained in 17 different martial arts, including 3 that humans physically cannot perform due to lacking a prehensile tail. Great. Fantastic. Love that for me. Jake opened his eyes. Barry, pull up those rules again. The actual text, word for word. The hologram shifted, displaying the ancient Galactic Council dueling regulations in their full, bureaucratic glory. Jake read through them once, then twice, then a third time, a small smile starting to form on his face. Barry, what exactly does it say about melee weapons? Barry's hologram adjusted its tiny glasses. It says, and I quote, edged or blunt implements are permitted provided they are wielded directly by the combatant and not fired, launched, or propelled by mechanical means. And does it say anything about how many? Barry paused. Sir, how many weapons can I bring? Is there a limit? The AI was silent for a moment, processing. I don't believe there is a specific numerical restriction, sir. The regulations were written assuming combatants would carry a single traditional weapon as a matter of honor and practicality. Jake's smile grew wider. Patricia looked at him with growing alarm. Morrison, what are you thinking? I'm thinking, Jake said slowly, that I'm not a Valorian warrior. I'm a human. And humans don't win fights by being honorable. We win by being creative, annoying, and technically correct. The best kind of correct, Barry added helpfully. Exactly. Jake stood up, energized for the first time since this disaster began. Barry, I need you to file a requisition request with Earth. Emergency priority. What kind of request, sir? Jake's grin was slightly manic. I need knives. Lots of knives. Every kind of knife they can get on a shuttle in the next 40 hours. Patricia stared at him. You're going to fight a 7-foot regenerating alien warrior with knives? Not knife. Knives. Plural. Many, many plurals. Jake was already pacing, his strategic mind finally kicking into gear. They banned firearms, because firearms are efficient. They want me to fight with honor, with skill, with a single blade like some kind of space samurai. But the rules don't actually say I have to. This is either brilliant or suicidal, Patricia said. Why not both? Jake pulled up a holocom to Earth. Get me logistics. And someone find me a tactical vest with a lot of pockets. A lot of pockets. Barry's hologram flickered with what might have been digital pride. Sir, I'm updating your personnel file to include creative interpretation of regulations as a skill. Make it my primary skill, Barry. We're going full human on this problem. The ceremonial arena was packed. And when an arena designed to hold 17 different species is packed, it looks like a rainbow had a collision with a zoo. Thousands of aliens filled the stands, their various forms of excited chittering creating a sound like an intergalactic orchestra tuning up after several drinks. Jake stood in the prep chamber, looking at himself in the mirror. He ditched the wrinkled suit for something more practical. a black tactical vest that would have made a SWAT team jealous. Except instead of ammunition pouches, every single pocket, loop, and strap held a knife. Final count. Barry, 47 distinct bladed implements, sir. Barry reported, his hologram doing a final inventory check, ranging from historically significant to arguably kitchen equipment. Beautiful. The arena doors opened with dramatic timing that the Galactic Council had probably spent decades perfecting. Kreltak entered first, and the crowd went wild. He strode to the center of the arena, wearing his ceremonial armor, carrying a single, elegant plasma blade that hummed with restrained power. He looked like a warrior from legend. Noble, powerful, prepared. Then Jake walked out. The crowd went silent. Jake's vest bristled with so many knife handles that he looked like a deranged porcupine who'd robbed a cutlery store. Machetes crisscrossed his back. Karambits hung from his belt. Throwing knives lined his chest in neat rows. A butterfly knife peeked from one pocket. Kitchen knives of various sizes jutted from another. There was a Swiss Army knife, a filleting knife, a hunting knife, a tactical tanto, a kukri, several daggers that might have been historically important, a pizza cutter dangling jauntily from a carabiner. One alien in the front row fainted. Another started counting out loud in their native language, got to 20, and gave up. Kreltak's faceplates shifted from confident purple to confused orange. What is this mockery? This, Jake said cheerfully, adjusting a strap, is preparation. The head arbiter, a floating jellyfish-like creature named Quilm, drifted forward with obvious concern. Human Morrison, this is highly irregular. But is it illegal? Quilm's tentacles fluttered as she consulted her datapad. The regulations state no firearms, no energy weapons, no explosives. All edged weapons must be wielded directly by the combatant. She paused, several tentacles twitching with what might have been the alien equivalent of disbelief. There is no specified limit on quantity. Exactly. Jake patted a machete fondly. I'm technically compliant. This violates the spirit of single combat. Kreltak roared. Should have been more specific in your regulations, Jake called back. That's what happens when you write rules assuming everyone shares your cultural values. Humans specialize in loopholes. The crowd erupted in a mix of outrage, laughter, and several species equivalent of stunned silence. Quilm's tentacles drooped in resignation. The rules are clear. The duel may proceed. Kreltak gripped his plasma blade tighter, his honor clearly insulted. You will regret this disrespect, human. Probably, Jake agreed, drawing his first knife, a modest combat blade. But I'll regret it alive and with humanity's trading rights intact. Barry's voice whispered through Jake's earpiece. Sir, for the record, I've catalogued each weapon with cultural and historical significance in case the council asks questions later. Barry, you're a treasure. I'm aware, sir. Try not to stab yourself. We didn't bring 47 bandages. Quilm raised one glowing tentacle. Combatants ready. She paused for dramatic effect. Begin. Kreltak charged forward with a roar that rattled the arena's force field. Jake threw his first knife, drew a second one, and smiled. This was going to be interesting. Kreltak charged like a freight train with anger issues. Jake, demonstrating the ancient human tradition of not being where the angry thing is, dove sideways and threw knife number 2. It bounced off Kreltak's shoulder armor with a pathetic ping. Your weapons are useless. Kreltak bellowed, swinging his plasma blade in an arc that would have split Jake in half if Jake hadn't already rolled behind a decorative pillar. Yeah, I figured, Jake called back, throwing knife number 3. Then 4. Then 5. But I brought backups for my backups. The crowd was losing its collective mind. Half were cheering, half were booing. Several were placing bets. One enterprising alien had started selling refreshments. Kreltak deflected another thrown blade, his movements still precise despite his rage. Stand and fight with honor. I'm standing, I'm fighting. The honor part is negotiable. Jake launched knife number 8, a throwing star that actually stuck in a gap between armor plates. Not deep enough to matter, but enough to be annoying. Kreltak roared and charged again. Jake threw a kitchen knife, then a butter knife. Then, in a moment of inspiration, the pizza cutter. The pizza cutter, spinning through the air like the world's most ridiculous shuriken, hit the joint of Kreltak's knee armor. The serrated wheel caught on something, and Kreltak stumbled. Did you just pizza cutter me? Kreltak sounded personally offended. His name is Herbert, and he's very effective. Jake was already moving, pulling out knife number 15, a hunting blade. And this is Gerald. He's got a gut hook. You named them. I name everything. It's a human thing. The fight devolved into a bizarre dance. Kreltak would charge, powerful and precise. Jake would dodge, throw a knife, call out its name, and run to a new position. The Valorian's armor was holding, but his patience was wearing thin. This is not combat. This is harassment. Tactical harassment, Jake corrected, throwing what appeared to be a letter opener. This is Steve, by the way. He's mostly decorative. Kreltak's healing factor meant the few cuts Jake managed to inflict sealed almost immediately. But something else was happening. The ambassador was slowing down, not from injury, but from sheer exasperation. Fighting someone honorably was one thing. Fighting someone who treated combat like a deranged game show was another. Jake pulled out knife number 23, a machete. Oh, this is Bruce. He's serious. They cannot all be named. Kreltak swung his plasma blade, missing Jake by inches. You'd be surprised. I had a lot of time on the shuttle. Jake feinted left, threw a karambit right. That's Patricia, named after my boss. She's curved and intimidating. By knife 32, Kreltak was breathing heavy. Not from exhaustion in the physical sense, but from the mental strain of trying to fight someone who wouldn't follow any conventional combat logic. Every time he adapted to Jake's pattern, the human would throw something new. A Bowie knife. A tactical folder. At one point, a novelty knife shaped like a fish. Why do you have a fish knife? Kreltak demanded, actually stopping to stare. I didn't ask questions. Earth sent what they had. Jake was panting now, his own stamina flagging. Look, can we take a break? I need to pace myself for the remaining 15 knives. There are 15 more. Well, 13 if you don't count the Swiss Army knife's attachments separately. But technically, Kreltak lunged forward with renewed fury. Jake sidestepped, but his foot caught on a discarded blade. He went down hard, and Kreltak's plasma blade stopped an inch from his throat. The arena went silent. Then Jake held up knife number 39. A butter knife. The same one from the diplomatic breakfast that started this whole mess. Before you win, Jake said, slightly wheezing. Just remember, the official record will say you defeated a human who brought 47 knives to a duel, but it'll also say which knife was at your feet when you won. Kreltak looked down. The butter knife gleamed in the arena lights, perfectly ordinary and deeply humiliating. You wouldn't. Dude, I absolutely would. I'm human. We're petty when we lose. Kreltak stared at the butter knife like it had personally insulted his ancestors. Which, in a way, it had. You're not even trying to win, Kreltak said, his plasma blade still hovering near Jake's throat. You're trying to make me quit. I mean, yeah. Jake didn't move, but his grip on the butter knife stayed firm. You're literally indestructible. I'm a guy with commitment issues and a caffeine addiction. I can't beat you, but I can annoy you into a draw. The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. Somewhere in the stands, an alien was stress-eating what looked like glowing popcorn. Kreltak's faceplates shifted through several colors, landing on something between grudging respect and profound irritation. This is the most dishonorable combat I've ever experienced. I prefer to think of it as creative problem-solving. You brought 47 knives. 47 solutions, Jake corrected. Some of them just happened to be shaped like kitchen equipment. The Valorian warrior was quiet for a moment. His blade didn't waver, but something in his posture changed. You know what the truly shameful part is? Human? That you're about to lose to butter knife number 39? That it's working. Kreltak lowered his plasma blade and stepped back. His armor was barely scratched. His healing factor had handled the minor cuts, but he looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with physical damage. I have fought champions, warriors, legends. I have never fought someone who weaponized absurdity. Jake sat up slowly, still holding the butter knife. In my defense, you did challenge me over coffee. Your coffee was terrible. It really was, Jake admitted. Look, here's the thing. You win this fight. You get bragging rights, and I get exiled to an ice moon. I win, which, let's be honest, isn't happening. And you lose face in front of the entire Galactic Council. We both lose. What are you proposing? Jake stood, dusting himself off. We call it a draw. You keep your honor. I keep my job. And we both go get some actual good coffee because I know a place on the station's 3rd level that imports beans from Andromeda. Then we finish those trade negotiations like adults. Kreltak's faceplates shifted to thoughtful blue. A draw. After you brought 47 knives to mock our sacred traditions. Hey, I brought 47 knives because I wanted to live. The mocking was just a bonus. Jake paused. Also, think about it. If you beat me now, The story is Krelltak defeated human with butter knife. If we draw, the story is Krelltak fought the crazy human who brought an arsenal and lived to tell about it. Which sounds better. The ambassador considered this. His pride was clearly wrestling with his practicality. And for a Valorian, that was like watching two mountains arm wrestle. You make a compelling argument, Krelltak said finally. And I do hate the idea of butter knife appearing in my combat record. See? We're finding common ground already. Krelltak turned to Quilm, who'd been watching the entire exchange with tentacles coiled in stress. Arbiter, I propose we declare this match a draw. The human has demonstrated sufficient creativity to earn respect, if not victory. Quilm's relief was visible across all her tentacles. If both parties agree, the council recognizes a draw. The terms of defeat are void. The crowd erupted in mixed reactions. Some cheered. Some booed. Several started arguing about the ethics of loopholes. The alien with the popcorn just kept eating. Jake extended his hand. No hard feelings about the whole honor-insult thing? Krelltak stared at the hand, then clasped it with surprising gentleness for someone who could probably crush steel. You are either very brave or very stupid, human. I'm going with stupid. It's gotten me this far. The Galactic Council chambers buzzed with activity 2 days later as bureaucrats scrambled to update regulations that had stood unchanged for 3 centuries. Quilm floated at the head of the committee, her tentacles moving in frustrated patterns across multiple datapads simultaneously. Amendment 773 to the Honorable Combat Regulations, she announced warily. All combatants are limited to a reasonable quantity of weapons, defined as no more than 3 primary implements and 2 backup implements. A junior aide raised a tentacle. Should we define what constitutes an implement? Yes, because apparently we have to now. Quilm's color shifted to exhausted purple. Nothing from kitchen environments unless it was designed primarily as a weapon. And no, we should not have to specify this. But here we are. In the corner of the gallery, Jake sat with Patricia, watching the chaos unfold with barely concealed amusement. They're calling it the Morrison Clause, Patricia said, scrolling through the diplomatic channels on her datapad. You've inspired 3 academic papers, 1 protest movement, and apparently a comedy special on Rigel 7. I'm a man of many talents. You exploited a loophole and got lucky. I prefer to think of it as demonstrating humanity's greatest strength. Aggressive creativity in the face of certain doom. Patricia almost smiled. Almost. Earth is pleased you didn't get us banned from 12 systems. The president sent a congratulatory message. And also asked you to never do anything like this again. No promises. The chamber doors opened, and Krelltak entered, his armor polished to a shine that could probably be seen from orbit. He spotted Jake and made his way over, carrying 2 steaming cups. Morrison. Hayes. He nodded to each of them, then handed Jake one of the cups. I found a supplier of decent coffee. Real Andromedan dark roast. No dirt or regret flavor. Jake took the cup, inhaling the aroma. Krelltak. If I didn't know better, I'd think you actually liked me. I respect efficiency and unconventional tactics. You demonstrated both. The Valorian settled into a seat clearly not designed for his frame. Also, the trade negotiations proceeded much faster after our duel. Apparently everyone was too entertained to argue about tariffs. See, I'm a diplomatic asset. You're a diplomatic incident waiting to happen, Patricia corrected. But apparently an effective one. They sat in companionable silence, watching the council continue to debate weapon regulations. An alien representative was now arguing about whether a spork counted as an edged implement. Barry materialized above Jake's datapad, looking pleased with his digital self. Sir, I've been analyzing the media coverage. You're trending on 47 planets. The symmetry with your knife count is not lost on commentators. Barry, please tell me you didn't plan that. I cannot tell you that, sir, as it would be a lie, and I am programmed for honesty. Jake stared at his AI. You calculated the knife count for maximum mimetic impact? A good assistant anticipates all needs, sir, including viral marketing potential. Krelltak's faceplates shifted to amused green. Your AI is devious. I approve. He's a menace is what he is. Speaking of menaces, Barry continued, you never did deploy knife number 47. Would you like me to file it in the official record? It was a quite interesting piece. A World War II-era trench knife with brass knuckles integrated into the handle. Very historical. Very intimidating. Barry, let it go. I'm simply noting that Weapon 47 remains unused, sir. Should future duels occur. There will be no future duels, Barry. Of course not, sir. Barry's hologram somehow managed to look smug. Although the Morrison Clause does specifically exempt historical artifacts from the 3-weapon limit if they're over 200 years old and… Barry. Shut up. Patricia was definitely smiling now. Kreltak made a sound that might have been a laugh. The Galactic Council continued arguing about cutlery classifications, and Jake Morrison, human diplomat and accidental legend, sipped his coffee and thought that maybe, just maybe, humanity's place in the galaxy was secure, at least until the next time someone challenged him to a duel. Then he'd probably bring axes.